Gagan, it's a pleasure to have you on again. It's always great to see you, particularly looking very festive. I know we're filming in November, but I'll start by asking you what I always ask you. What have you been up to recently?
Well, thanks for having me and thank you for decorating the office. So today was the autumn statement. So we had the Chancellor give the good news about how the economy's doing. We've been able to support a lot more working people with some tax cuts. And I was actually lucky enough to be in the chamber when he was given that speech because I was on duty as a bench whip. So you would have seen me sitting next to the Speaker for most of what he said in the chair. Oh, sorry, the dispatch box, yes.
And that's not the only activity we've had. We've had the state opening. Where were you for that?
Again, as a whip, I was actually lucky enough to be in quite a fine position. Part of my role as part of the whip's team was to ensure that senior colleagues, both cabinet and shadow cabinet, were able to get into the House of Lords. So that did actually mean that I got a better view than I normally do when listening to His Majesty the King in the Lords. And again, because I was on bench duty, I sat through some of that with the Prime Minister giving the King's speech update. So, yes.
So on top of an already busy month, we also had a bit of a reshuffle in the cabinet. You are a Minister of State. How does this affect you?
So I didn't actually change positions. So I'm still the department whip for 3 departments: Department of Transport, Levelling Up, which is effectively local government, and Equalities. But the whip's office, we did have a few people come in and out, which is quite common during a reshuffle. So I've got some more friends of my intake have joined the whip's office. So I'm no longer the newbie in the office. I've got others who may have had experience of being a whip in previous administrations, but they're looking to me sometimes for a bit of guidance, and I'm definitely looking at others for guidance on what I should be doing as a whip.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned local government in there, and we in the office, we deal with a lot of constituent correspondence, and I think maybe one of the things that a lot of people are curious to know is what the difference between an MP like yourself is and a councillor like past you was. And how long were you a councillor for?
So I was a councillor for ended up being 16 years at different tiers. So I first got elected as parish councillor in 2004.
Yeah. And where was that?
In Chigwell in Essex. I held that position for 13 years. Became a district councillor in 2006, and Epping Forest District Council. Ended up holding that position for 15 years, the last 2 because of the pandemic. And I was a county councillor on Essex County Council for 2017, and again did that for 4 years because of the pandemic. So I'm a big fan of local government and the excellent work that councillors do up and down the country. They are a lot closer to the community they represent than I am at this level because they typically represent a smaller population size. Well, as you know, I represent 106,000 people in South West Hertfordshire. I physically don't have the time to actually engage at the same level that a councillor can do. But I very much learnt my political trade in those years in local government.
And because you're obviously really well placed to speak about both positions, you've been an MP for a few years now and all these years as a councillor, what to you is the biggest difference between being an MP and being a local councillor?
So I would perversely argue that as a councillor you probably have more direct impact on someone's life than as a member of Parliament. I was in the cabinet at Essex County Council before I became a member of Parliament for South West Hertfordshire. I was responsible for property and finance, and my budget was £2 billion, affecting 1.5 million people. And actually, as a cabinet, we made a decision very quickly that would be felt by the population that we represented, the people of Essex. When I became a member of Parliament, although I'm directly responsible for a lot more people, 106,000 people, the ability to influence is slightly watered down by the fact there's 650 MPs.
Yeah.
And yes, we all stand on a party manifesto, but the levers of power and influence at this level, I describe it as an oil tanker moving. So you make a decision, and you may see a little shift in the positioning of that alt anchor, and sometimes, occasionally, you see a big shift, and we've seen that in more recent past.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sheds a lot of light on the matter. So now we get to the part of the podcast that where I get to ask you the questions I really want to ask you. And first and most importantly, what's your favourite Christmas film?
Where do I start? Because my memories of Christmas are very much revolves around the TV, and it was the whole run up to Christmas Day itself. And I'm old enough to admit that the TV channels when I was growing up, there's only 4 of them. 5. So you were quite eager to get hold of something called TV Times, which were doing the showings. I fell in love with Star Wars, but things like Christmas Carol. God, what's that one with the tower?
Oh, I think I know the one you mean.
It's not Lethal Weapon. It's
no, it's
Bruce Willis.
Die Hard.
Die Hard. So Die Hard would always come on during Christmas.
That's a controversial one, whether you say it's a Christmas film or not.
Well, it was filmed.
Yeah,
it's set
strong
during
arguments
Christmas.
for, strong arguments against.
I agree. I live in a political world, so I don't need to open up any more political conversations and that's very contentious. But no, for me, Christmas is always a fun time to spend with family and friends. So I won't spend as much time watching TV because actually it's the time you spend with your friends and family when you're in holidays like that are probably the most important, rather than watching a rerun of your favourite films.
And I know you said you wanted to avoid controversy, but I've got one for you that's been causing a bit of controversy in the office. How early is too early for Christmas music?
I'm going to say the 1st December. Yeah. So while I've got my first Christmas lights being switched on in the patch on Saturday that I'm attending, Friday night that I'm attending, my wife always makes us listen to Christmas music, especially if we're having to visit my in-laws. So she's more likely to be quite keen to actually get into the festive mood. But until I see a bit of snow or it gets really cold, I'm still a bit holding on to autumn.
Yeah. Also on the question of Christmas timings, how early or late do you buy your Christmas presents? Are you quite a pre-prepared guy, or do you leave it quite to the last minute?
I'm very much last minute, and I'm lucky enough to have some nieces and nephew. So actually, Christmas purchasing is a lot more focused on them more than my wife or wider family. So it's a lot more fun because you see the joy in their eyes when they're opening up the Christmas presents. I don't think they really appreciate how much time and effort goes into it, especially if we're having to make a present. But hopefully in years to come, if they've still kept them, they'll look back with fondness and say, actually, let's see.
Perhaps a parliamentary Christmas jumper. They make one every year, don't they?
They do. So we did have a Christmas event with the team last year, and I think one of the team, who's no longer with us, has moved on to bigger, better things, still gets mocked on how he looked in his Christmas jumper. My wife buys all my clothes, as the listeners and viewers are probably aware, so I'll wait for her to make a decision whether I need updating or not.
And finally, there's been good parts of the year, there's been harder parts of the year. Do you have a message for your constituents ahead of Christmas?
The war in Israel and Gaza is still going on at the moment, as is the war in Ukraine, or the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Now, when I got elected in December 2019, the world was a safer place than it is now. But actually, the message of Christmas, and we recently had Diwali, is a message of hope. We are lucky enough to be living and working in the United Kingdom. It's a really safe country, and it remains an inspiration for a lot of people around the world of how strong we are as a nation. We do punch above our weight on the international stage. So I think the message I hope people will listen to is that actually aim for the stars, you'll hit the moon. And I look at my own career when I was probably your age, Rory, I didn't think I'd ever be an MP in 20 years of political life I am. So there's very few barriers for success in this country. So if you're lucky enough to be listening to this in the United Kingdom, go and fulfil your potential.
Gagan, thank you so much. Real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.